Men who tend to have bald head, frontal baldness, carry a gene that predisposes their female children to what we call polycystic ovaries. It's also somehow tied with a family history of diabetes. Yeah, these people cannot tolerate. I think it's a mixture of genes as well as the modern environment. It's less common amongst us here than, for example, in the Middle Eastern societies. There's more than 33% of the women have it. You inherit it and you just carry on the genetic system like that. It's not from smoking, it's not for alcoholism, it's not necessarily a lifestyle thing, but a genetic and environmental thing that nobody really understands what is, the key factor that makes you to express the gene. Because some people may have that gene and they have a perfect normal life. They are not polycystic at all. So there's no guilt on any woman who has polycystic ovaries. We better say that's how God made her. Okay. And so the question of why is it common is not so much individual fault or family fault as much as what the Lord made the person to be like.
Dr. Wada is still here. There is more to learn after this time out.
Curious about how government policies on healthcare are faring? Do you enjoy learning about wellness concept and the many options available? Then watch Health Options on the NTA.
Mr. President has led by example. Take the COVID-19 vaccine.
Somebody can say, hey, I woke up this morning, I felt some tingling in my hand, some weakness, my face was, I couldn't speak well. That's a warning stroke, and it shouldn't be ignored.
The carrots contains carotene. Tomatoes is a colored plant. It has carotene. Pepper has carotene.
50% of our diet should be green vegetables and fruits.
Join leading experts on both orthodox and alternative medicine for all the enlightenment you need for a healthier you.
Thanks for joining us on the program. I am Rabi Abdullah. If you just joined, the program is Health Options, and we have been discussing polycystic ovary syndrome, PCOS, with Dr. Ibrahim Wada. At what point should a woman be worried?
Almost from the beginning. You see, like I said, if what we call menarche is the beginning of your menses, it's one of the first signs that you have your menses now, and 3 months later, 6 months later, none again. That's when you should start thinking, do I have this hormone imbalance called polycystic ovary syndrome, or unusual weight gain from a young age, and not necessarily because the person is eating too much. It's a metabolic problem whereby they are unable to handle sugar the way everybody else handles sugar, so a lot of it is stored and you keep piling on weight. You want to diet, you want to exercise, it's not as responsive because there's something wrong with the way the hormone balance is, and it predisposes you to this abnormal phenotype where you put on weight with the slightest provocation. That again will make somebody to get worried. You are young, you are in your reproductive age, apart from menstrual irregularity, you start getting hair in the wrong places, it should also warn you. And I think that those are the key things that will make someone want to know if they need to run the test. And what tests are we talking about? Reproductive hormone measurements. Yeah, you have heard of estrogen, you've heard of progesterone, you've heard of FSH and LH, follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. You've heard of prolactin. Those are some of the hormone measurements doctors will do. Then you've heard of scanning, ultrasound scanning, especially of the ovaries. Again, doctors will ask for that to see how do your ovaries look on scan. Do they have that necklace arrangement of small cysts like I've tried to describe or not? And no woman has everything. Since it's a genetic thing, it's hardly curable.
So how can it be managed now, doctor?
Giving them hormones, even contraceptive hormones, will help to regularize the period, may help reduce some of the hormone imbalances that the women have. So we have all sorts of estrogen, progesterone combinations that we use. Then apart from that one, if you have hair problems, you have to attack that one by aesthetic means, that is to remove the hair or use drugs that suppress hair growth. Weight gain, we also know that you are looking at diet and exercise control, no matter how frustrating, they help a little. Then if there's fertility issues, then we try to examine further about the husband, the other factors that can cause fertility. If they are not there, then there are treatments prescribed. Hormone drugs that provoke ovulation, which part of the problem is that the woman is not ovulating regularly. And even when you try to provoke the ovulation, too many eggs come up at once. Yeah. So these are the things that we encounter. We recommend that this kind of diagnosis are handled by specialists called gynecologists who know better how to achieve a balance for egg production to enhance the fertility. Many other fertility treatments are available, but this is not an occasion for that.
And on a final note now, doctor, as a specialist, what is your advice to people who are going through this condition?
Okay, I think it starts from the time a young girl is going through puberty. She has her first menses. We need to look. How is her development? How is her menses? Many parents or even their teachers in school may not be aware of this polycystic ovaries, but with this kind of media attention, it is in that position that is detected early, counseling, support to understand, even to start the diet and exercise regimes early. There's another medication called metformin. We give it to diabetics. This helps to reduce the sugar level and gives them a longer time before developing any of the symptoms that I've tried to describe of polycystic ovary. So this can be instituted at the appropriate time by specialist doctors to help these people cope better with any distress in their reproductive life, social life, in terms of periods not coming all the time and so on. So that's the way. Awareness, which is what we are trying to create for both parents at home, teachers in school, and also for the medical community who see these cases.
I wish you can go on and on, but we have to leave it here for now. Many thanks for coming.
It's my pleasure to be here, and I wish everyone well. Thank you very much.
It has been quite a revealing session with Dr. Wada. We thank you again for doing this. Still looking at fertility, Dr. Ben Amodu is standing by on our complimentary segment to educate us about alternative medicine and how it can boost fertility.
There are certain chemicals secreted by our human body that travels up and down in the human system, both man and woman, that act as a messenger. And what do? They regulate thyroid function. They regulate issues of metabolism, mitochondrial activities, and then, that is what they do mostly, balancing it up and down. When there is a shortage in the production of this messenger, which is the hormone, the chemical that is made by the body going up and down, regulating how the body's activities are carried out, either there's a drop, there's an increase, there's a consequence for that. And the consequences could be overweight, mood swing, increase in male hormone production, and then you have issues of infertility as a result of either the female sexual hormone is not as well produced as the male, so PCOS arises, and it could lead to ovarian cancer and even some heart diseases and what have you. So that is the basis.
Let's now narrow it to infertility, because that is one of the major things we are focusing on this aspect of the program now. Why do you think it's because a problem when it comes to infertility?
When there's this hormonal imbalance, already infertility has come. What it does in women is that they have more of the male hormone production than the female, which they should naturally be producing. As a result of that, their menses comes large. For some, it may come tiny. As I told you, if it's increased or decreased, it's a problem. It's a delicate balance. So if they have that, they may be over menstruating, under menstruating, and once those ones are happening, the egg production and all that is, nothing can happen. Once there's no balance in your hormonal production, infertility is already envisaged. So the solution you are looking for is to bring the balance of those chemicals that are produced within the body that act as the messengers going up and down, to make sure that regulations, adequate amount of the various hormones are produced for the activities of the body to go on well, because it may lead to overweight. You know, a lot of these people have overweight, mood swing here and there. Some of them even develop thyroid. And then there are times their eating habits and others. But the good thing is that in the traditional, complementary, and alternative medicine, there are food materials that have been identified that have very, very powerful effect. I'll give you an example. Somebody came to my clinic about 2 weeks ago. What's your age? I'm 38 years. When last did you do menses? No, sir. I'm sorry. My menses in the last 2 years, they told me that it's an early menopause. I said, Kai, shut up. What is early menopause at 38? When is your productive life? If at 38 you are not seeing your menses, it is not. You are having hormonal imbalance. And we will give you this food combination that has been made into a product for it to restore back, and then you will see your menses again. And we give. And 2 months later, she confessed that her period came, and it came normal. And you know, anytime there's hormonal imbalance, sometimes it may be backed with cyst. Cyst may be there, may or may not be there. Endometriosis may be there on one side. Infection, Staphylococcus, E. coli, Salmonella, call them, may be there. Even fallopian tube blockade may be there. And then the real name, hormonal imbalance. The good thing about herbs is that they are master of all. They work on all this and take care of the situation and restore normal production of hormones. And every situation is restored, and the menses. Because while you are having hormonal imbalance, you can't take in. You cannot take in. And this same happens to men. In the women case, what do they notice? One, the period is the most critical. It's either they are under menstruating or over menstruating. Some can menstruate for 30 days. Some, instead of 5 days, they menstruate for 1 day. Those are the signs. 2, some, when they meet with their husband, it's a lot of pain experienced. 3, in fact, some of them, they are not ovulating at all from records of HSG and other tests carried out. They are not at all. Or the eggs are badly formed. Then, what else? These are some amongst others. In the male folk, instead of their own male hormones production, they do the opposite. Have more of the estrogens. And then their hormone is unbalanced. Their sperm is zero sperm production. Painful meeting with their wives. 3, you know, normally the sperm count is supposed to be 30, 40, 50 million. They have 0. In that situation, they cannot do anything. Then, what is it again? Some of them don't produce sperm at all. And then, some of them, their male organ has shortened to very small. All these have to do with hormonal imbalance and infection, which I said earlier, is always accompanying any of the distance. So for the purpose of this NTA interview, I want to appeal to husbands. When you are married with your wife, you have become one. The issue of following your wife to do your test and follow up and correct if this type of situation exists should not be a bragging one. I go out and I don't have issues outside. No, all those things are unnecessary. When you have hormonal imbalance, it is very difficult for your wife to take in. And when she eventually takes it, she may abort. When you start seeing such things happening, it's a big issue. So there's a need for both of you to go out and seek for medical attention, not to push only your wife out.
Okay.
Please.
Okay. What do one need to do now to avoid, and what does one need to do for the benefit of those?
You know, this bitter leaf is a very powerful one. Water leaf is powerful. Abaluma and co, they are all powerful. But you know, we are not telling you this just for you to go and sit down somewhere and start putting them together, because we have been able to put them together in an acceptable standard form that NAFDAC has given listening approval. So it's not, we are not encouraging you to go and become
like dietary food.
The dietary, yes. Take a lot of salad with your food and all that, because some of those salad materials have the capacity to correct, like in ovarian cancer issues, where you talk about that purple cabbage that I used to bring here. That is broccoli, cabbage, broccoli, and cauliflower. A test has been done, and it shows that even ovarian cancer, it can deal with it. So if you are on all that, which are part of a standard salad, it will go a long way to suppress and correct some of these situations.
Thank you very much.
It's my pleasure.
Allow these children to grow.
Yes.
Many of them, you have somebody 14, 15 going to the university. Where are you going?
Information technology is the future.
Hello, a warm welcome to you. This is Platform. I'm Ruth Agwala.
You don't create that awareness and you don't bring the young minds to identify that there are benefits in astronomy.
We have had experiences through various leadership strata, bringing us to where we can...
Platform engages guests on topical issues for national interest.
We have cases like that. We all to protect children and also make parents realize that they have a primary responsibility.
Join us every Thursday at 2 p.m. on the network service of the NTA.
That concludes this week's episode of Health Options. If you missed any part of these as well as previous editions, you can always catch up on our YouTube channel. Send us your comments and suggestions at nta.gov.ng. Many thanks for watching. I am Salwa Khalil Ibrahim. Do take care of yourself.
Stories to tell.
The small boy kicked me to open fire on me, so I said, okay, you can cut the right hand. So that's what how my right hand was cut off.
He's working with clutch with which year that it was that guy. No, he's not an ordinary eye. No, he's not an eye. Juju he used to marry his wife.
It all depends on how I handle my story and how you're able to handle your own story.
It is what you decide in your mind that determines you, not your situation.
I don't hear well, but one thing is, we are better together.
Dushma, Lucy, Pius,
Welcome to Against All Odds on the Nigerian Television Authority, a program that brings to your doorstep the lives of persons with disability.
No matter where you come from, no matter your religion, we are one. Let's live together.
Let's stop fighting each other. Let us live as one. It doesn't matter where you come from, your tribe or religion, man, woman or child. It doesn't matter who you are. Put Nigeria first.
No matter where you come from, no matter your religion, we are one. Let's live together.
How can we develop when we're always in crisis? Families have become refugees in their country. No matter our differences, show some understanding.
No matter where you come from, no matter your religion, we are one. Let's live together.
Film is used to popularize government policies and ideologies among the masses. Owing to its ability to hold and capture audience, films are used more than any other means of mass communication to promote ideas of positive social transformation, as well as to consolidate and build new relationships.
So many governments want to start selling their policies through entertainment. If it's a policy for 3 years, they'll start putting it on the screen. Then, at the point, by the time it comes out, every other person feel like it's usual. It's like that. Before Obama became president, if you watch 24, there's a film 24. They start selling a black president into the minds of people, into the consciousness of people. And it worked. So, if the government wants things to sell, because there's no way you can give me money and I'll tell a bad story about you, let them start investing. It's still on record that if you go around the world, the second largest is in the amount of movies being produced. So India is the first. Nollywood is the second before Hollywood and others. It's on the number of movies being produced yearly. And I told you, I say India is achieving their own feat because they have government support. We don't. And we are still coming second in the number of films we produce.
Nollywood films have gained widespread prominence, especially within the African continent. Even today in Nigeria, we have variations in the Nollywood industry.
There are associations, then there are these woods. The other woods that are coming are still nomenclatures. Everybody is trying to say, oh, we have something that is, showing. But the general name, whether you're Kannywood, whether you're Idoma Wood, whether you're Igbo Wood, all of them still have associations that propel all those things.
This is the network service of the NTA.
Ìgbà tó tó àsìkò tí wọ́n bẹ̀rẹ̀ iléèwé, wọ́n gbé iléèwé wọn láti abúlé wa ní 1955. Mo kéré stature mi kéré ńgbà yẹn. Ìyá mi tí mo wà lọ́dọ̀ rẹ̀ ní mi gbọ́dọ̀ lọ. Mo ní ìyá mi sọ pé mo ní lọ ní. Tí ẹ̀kọ́ tí wọ́n jẹ kù àtẹ́já, mo ti gbé torábùlé ni mo ti gbé, mo ti jẹ́ inú mi ló mo ti ń bá wọn lé ẹran káàkiri. Àbúrò màmá mi bá tún wá. Wọ́n ní ìyá mi tó bá yẹ pé owó ni àwọn ràn ọmọ lọ iléèwé kọ́ mọ́ wọlé. Màmá bá change ohun pé nígbà tí wọ́n ní ọmọ náà wọ́n ní wọ́n sọ nìkan ló wà ní ibi tí wọ́n ti máa kọ́ wọn tí wọ́n ń pè ní kíláàsì ni wọ́n jẹ́ máa lọ wọ́n ní yóò dà fún yóò máa lọ mo ní màmá mi ìyá mi wọn lọ ìyá mi wọn bá gbá mi ń pàkọ́ nígbà mo dé kíláàsì níjọ́ yẹn mo ṣe wú ni mo wú inú mi ò dùn torí kò èmi náà máa ń tí ẹ̀kọ́ jẹ́ ń gbà yẹn.
People have the different forms of educating their people. One key one being oral traditions. People pass on their own stories, their own histories, by stories, fables, and so on, down from one generation to the other. Africa is no different. Nigeria is no different. Indigenous peoples of the world have been able to educate their own children the way they would want to. Now, if we talk about formal education in Africa, the oldest university, or one of the oldest universities in the world, is the Sankore University that was started by Mansa Musa, Timbuktu in Mali. This is over 1,000 years plus ago. That was even before Westerners thought of even coming this way with their own universities. Take note, one of the oldest universities in the world was in Africa. Now, education in Africa has gone the way it has gone. Can we really explain it? No. But as this journey progresses on our history today, you'll get to hear more indigenous learning, skill acquisition, and other things. Welcome. And today we're reaching you from Freedom Park. You'll get to understand the connection of this place to education. Welcome. My name is Cordelia Obey.
You see, we have 23.90, 23.90, 23.5, 23.5.
Learning is said to be the act or process of acquiring knowledge or skills. Human learning starts at birth and continues until death as a consequence of ongoing interactions between people and their environment. People are taught theories and foundational knowledge that they apply to their lives as they grow. It can take place in different forms, some in the apprenticeship form, online, and in school. Early 19th century, Africa faced European imperialist aggression. Military invasion and eventual conquest. The European major goal was economic, search for manpower, raw materials, and guaranteed markets for their manufactured products. Their focus was not to develop Africa, so there was no much effort to improve on the already laid down traditional learning process.
The display photos you're going to see here are all of Her Majesty's prison. These items are identified as materials from the prisons excavated. Why are we here? At the beginning, I told you that you discover the relationship between what this prison represents and the education that came with it. What does it truly mean? What did it have to do with our society? Was it more of an economic thing or for the well-being of the people? Over here, there's something I'm going to show you.
The formal form of education is just the natural way of
teaching your children some basic thing at home, like this thing, don't do it. This thing, if you do this outcome. Some of them are even attached to something like well, superstition. So part of this informal education include maybe learning the same trade with your parents. Like I can use my own father as an example, who told the line of his own father. What they were doing at that time was selling of clothes. So they go from one village town to another, carrying this thing on their head and selling to people. It was a form of trade then. And another aspect of it is farming too, which he was equally involved in and enjoying and planting some of those cocoa farm and everything. All these things were done without documentation. So we call them more or less an informal form of education.
Before the coming of the Europeans, children were taught the practical skills needed to function successfully in traditional society. Usually, children within 2 or 3 years of age belong to an age group. Together, they learn the customs of their community and were assigned specific duties around the village, such as sweeping lanes or clearing the bush. As the children grew older, the boys were introduced to farming and more specialized work, such as wood carving or drumming. Girls would learn farming and domestic skills. Boys would often enter into apprenticeship-type relationships with master craftsmen. Another type of education that existed before colonization was Quranic education policy in the northern part of Nigeria. Islam was deeply entrenched both in their religion and education. It was the British missionaries that introduced Western type of education into Nigeria in the mid-19th century. In 1843, the first school in Nigeria was built in Badagry by the Anglican Church Missionary Society, CMS.
The Portuguese traders that came to Nigeria went straight to Benin, the Benin Kingdom, and they taught the children of the Oba. After that period, another set came, and those sets were the missionaries, the CMS, the Anglican Church Missionary Society. They came to Lagos, precisely Badagry, and because of their philosophy, they came with the idea of evangelizing the Africans with the Christian religion. And the people were not too ready to embrace their religion at that time. In fact, they even wanted them to be paying them so that their children can be let off the hook to go to school. And at that time, they decided to build the first school, the first primary school at Badagry. From Badagry, they went to Calabar and then to other coastal cities in Nigeria. And as they went with their religion. In fact, the opposition they were getting at that time came about because our parents those days were mainly farmers, and they usually take their children to the farm. And so if they allow their children to go to school, who will go to the farm with them? And that was one of the reasons why they wanted the missionaries to be paying them some tokens before they can allow their children to go to school.
Over time, other educational institutions appeared, and Western education became firmly established in the lives of Nigerians.
I learned, because I did not meet it myself, that there was what they call standard primary school, or what they call the standard school. So, I say, okay, you are in standard 1, standard 2, all those up to primary 6, which they call standard 6 then. So it was what they inherited from the colonial master. So it was very beautiful as at that time, but only very people were going to school because they saw it as a way of snatching the children away from them. So they live in the informal form of education.
Western education helped our past nationalists obtain independence from the colonial masters. They gathered knowledge and skills that made them fight for their freedom.
Mr. Chairman, petition making, which we started last year.
In 1952, the then Western Nigerian government agitated for improvement in the educational system. Their cry was not heard until 1955, when free primary education program was introduced by late Chief Obafemi Jeremiah Oyeni Awolowo.
I could pass it for the then premier then. The premier of Western region was someone that loved education so much. And because of the revenue available unto him that time from cocoa, which happened to be a major source of income then, and because of the policy of the federal government then, which allow each section to manage their resources, so he was able to have enough money to organize a free primary education, whereby children were going to school without paying money. But before then, they were paying for their primary education, and most of the parents that could not afford to send their children to school, they learn other trade. So in order to balance this thing, because I believe that Awolowo said something, said the children of these people don't train will not allow your own children to do what? To rest. So the best thing you have to do is to make sure you give them the proper training, and by so doing, let us start with a primary education. So he introduced the universal basic education, which we call that was the primary school education. The primary school education, which was free for everybody, and most parents were so happy about it. And that was the origin, the reason why you see that the West was somehow far ahead of the other region when it comes to that education.
In 1956, educational law for free education was enacted, while in the North and Lagos province, free education was introduced in 1957.
Our history.
The military intervention of 1966 and Nigerian Civil War of 1967 to 1970 had great negative impact in the free primary education scheme. So, after the Civil War, the government sought for ways to bring back the glory of our education. In 1976, Nigerian government passed a law making education compulsory for all children between the ages of 6 and 12.
The former system was okay as at that time when it was introduced. When you talk about the compulsory education, what really happened was that parents were not really ready to send their children to school. So it now became a law that you must send these children to school. If you don't do it, you will be punished for it. So they now become compulsory. So if they see any of these children selling or walking along the street, they pick the children up, and when the parents go there, they pay fine for not allowing the children to go to school. That was the compulsory of 1976.
In 1976, Nigerian government passed a law making education compulsory for all children between the ages of 6 and 12. By 1980, approximately 98% of this group were enrolled in primary schools, up from 37% in 1970. Though there was great increase in number of primary schools, but the number of students was not equivalent to the schools, with fewer than 13 million students.
Along the line, that time the system was 654. You spend 6 years in primary school, you spend 5 years in a secondary school, and then 4 years and above in the university for your, depending on the course or courses that you may be reading. After a period of time, people now realize that not all students are bent or inclined for this education system. Some just want to have some basic education that can learn the trade. So they now introduce what we call the 6334. The 6334 says 6 years of primary education, 3 years of junior school.
So in 1983, another educational scheme, the 6334 system of education, was introduced. The system's primary aim was meeting the educational needs of Nigerians and equipping the youths with sellable skills that will make them to be self-reliant. By 1985, the country as a whole had 35,000 primary schools. By 1994, the number of primary